I am a 28-year-old male who comes from a family with a convoluted and long history of favoritism. My younger sister, Amy, 25, has always been preferred by my parents, especially Dad, over me, starting in our childhood. This partiality only got worse as we grew up. Amy was the golden child from my earliest memories. Our parents threw her an elaborate birthday party, including professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and a petting zoo. Before we dive deeper into today's story, every new subscriber helps me keep sharing stories that inspire and touch your day. If you enjoy what you're watching, please hit that subscribe button. It truly means the world to me. Thank you so much for being here. When I was 5 and she was 2, I had a store-bought cake and a little family supper for my birthday that same year. This helped to define the tone for years to come. The differences became clearer as we aged. Amy always received the newest toys, the most incredible clothes, and the most attention. I recall saving months of allowance for a new bike when I was 10 years old. Amy wanted one, too, so she got a fit when she saw it. Rather than educating her about waiting or saving, my parents went right out and got her an even nicer bike than mine. Another arena where the bias was evident was school. Amy's parents attended all of her school functions, while they usually missed mine. In 4th grade, I took the front stage in the school play. I practiced for weeks, driven by great enthusiasm. My parents arrived an hour late on the night of the play, therefore missing my major scene. They were consoling Amy after she complained of a stomach ache. She was good later on. They had simply lost track of time playing with her. Regarding academics, nothing I ever appeared to do seemed sufficient. I joined the math club, often received straight A's in middle school, and even took first place in a regional science fair. Though my parents hardly noticed these successes, they gave Amy a celebratory dinner and purchased her a new phone as an encouragement to keep getting better when she scored a B+ on one test in her weakest subject. In particular, high school was difficult. With an eye toward their approval, I put myself into whatever activity I could, along with keeping a 4.0 GPA. I was the editor of the school newspaper debate team captain. Amy coasted through school, hardly keeping a C+ average, and spent much of her time hanging out with friends. I was chosen by our university as one of 2 junior-year applicants to participate in a famous summer program at Harvard. It was such an honor, and I felt great. My dad grumbled and moved the topic to Amy's forthcoming dancing performance when I told the news over supper. At least my mother remarked, "That's nice." But she moved on fast. My parents couldn't take me to the airport on the night Amy's concert fell on the same day I was leaving for Harvard, as they wanted to see Amy perform. I asked the parents of a friend for a ride. Another agonizing experience was the college application process. I worked months on improving my essays, engaged in extracurricular activities, and sat for preparation. Several elite colleges accepted me, and I was given a sizable scholarship to my ideal college. When I told my parents about this at supper, their reaction was barely passable. "That's good, but don't let it run to your head. College is everything," my dad advised. "Just remember about us when you're off becoming a big shot," my mother said. On the other hand, my parents were quite understanding when Amy barely passed high school and chose not to attend college. They admired her for knowing herself and for defying social expectations, something they never did for me. They even paid for her a car as a graduation gift. Emotionally, this persistent favoritism suffered me greatly. Over my teens and early 20s, I battled anxiety and despair, beginning therapy in college. I came to realize that my parents' actions were not my fault. Years of effort were needed to develop my self-esteem and learn to validate myself rather than depending on my parents' approval. My immediate family did not help me, yet I still managed to lead a decent life. By the time I finished college with honors, I had a decent job in finance and had purchased my own house by 27 years old. Though my parents aren't proud of what I've accomplished here, that is where the current drama begins. On Dad's side, my grandfather died not too long ago. He left a sizable estate and was a successful businessman who started from nothing. In his will, he split his possessions equally among his grandchildren, including me, Amy, and our cousins, as well as his children, Dad and his siblings. My portion of the bequest was significant, roughly $500,000. It would have let me invest in my future, pay off my education loans, and perhaps even launch my own company someday. This unanticipated windfall and the chances it could present made me happy. When the will was read, though, my parents clearly became agitated. Later, they drew me aside and said they felt it was unjust I received an equal portion. Amy, who lives in our parents' basement and works part-time at a coffee shop, said she needed the money more since she was suffering. Though stunned, I attempted to keep cool. I clarified that Grandpa made this decision. They had no say in how he decided. They insisted I should act morally and give Amy my fair part. They became enraged when I turned them down and began guilt-tripping me, calling me unappreciative and selfish. Every incident my dad could recall where they had helped me came under discussion. Though I worked part-time to help with finances, he emphasized paying for my medically necessary braces, buying me school supplies, the bare minimum, and allowing me to reside at home during college. He conveniently forgot about the car they bought Amy, the many shopping sprees, and the fact they still support her at 25. The matter got rapidly more serious. Acting as the will's executor, my dad chose to handle things himself, along with her own inheritance. He declared he would be interpreting Grandpa's intentions and give Amy my whole part. He said Grandpa would have wished if he had known about our unique situation. I was broken. This was not only obviously illegal, but also a terrible reminder of how little my parents thought of me. Pointing that Grandpa had always treated all his grandchildren equally and that he was aware of our circumstances, I tried to reason with them. Then, my mother accused me of speaking ill of the deceased by implying Grandpa would have preferred anything else than what my dad was advocating. I mentioned certain memories of Grandpa pushing my academic and career goals, but my parents brushed off these as misinterpretations. They said Grandpa wanted to make sure Amy was taken care of and had privately voiced worry about her future. They had no response when I asked why he hadn't simply pinned the will that way. Then Amy, for her part, was awkward about the circumstances but did not voice criticism of our parents. She merely shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." When I tried to chat with her alone, she obviously wasn't going to be much help. Feeling misled and wounded, I asked Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandma, for guidance. Hearing what was happening, she became enraged. She informed me that my parents had no authority to alter the will and that this was exactly not what Grandpa had planned. Grandma sent some material that clarified the matter. Several years ago, my parents asked Grandpa to give everything to Amy in his will. Grandpa had steadfastly objected, saying he thought all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. He had even included a stipulation in his will declaring that anyone challenging the equitable distribution would lose their portion. Equipped with this knowledge, I challenged my parents. Grandma's disclosure of their earlier attempt to affect the will startled them, saying they were only looking out for Amy's future. It helped my dad try to defend it, but I could see the guilt on their faces. Grandmother acted right away. She got in touch with her will's other executive and attorney. She also got in touch with my dad's siblings, who shared her equally strong indignation at what he was attempting. Taken together, they stopped my dad's scheme and guaranteed that the will would be carried out as stated. Though they were unhappy with me, my parents were obliged to back off. They argued I should have handled this in-house instead of involving others and accused me of turning the family against me. My mother sobbed over how I had split the family and deceived them. I said I had never expected anything from them anyway when my dad threatened to cut me out of their will totally. Now, should I accept the inheritance, they are threatening to break off all communication. My dad even went so far as to suggest that I would not be welcome in their house should I inherit it. In a particularly low blow, my mother remarked that my acceptance of the money reveals that I never truly loved them and was merely ready to profit from their passing. The matter splits the extended family. A few of my cousins are encouraging since they understand the long-standing favoritism and value me for advocating for myself. Others believe I should have yielded in order to preserve peace since family harmony comes first over financial considerations. Although my dad's siblings are definitely on my side, this has strained their relationship as well as my parents. Amy finds herself enmeshed in all this. She confided in me privately that although she felt bad and didn't ask for this, she was not ready to challenge our parents. She's been trained her whole life to depend on them and seek their praise. Hence, I don't blame her totally. Still, a part of me longs for her to help me just once. This circumstance has brought out a lot of past suffering and bitterness. I find myself remembering all the times I was passed over or discounted in favor of Amy, the birthday celebrations I missed, the school functions my parents missed, the successes that went unreported. This one occurrence seems to be bringing to a head a lifetime of unfairness. Though the whole affair has caused a great divide in the family, I am keeping my ground and want to take my inheritance as Grandpa meant. My parents hardly talk to me, and family get-togethers have grown awkward. I missed our monthly family meal last week for the first time ever since I couldn't stand the cold shoulders and accusing glares. Though there is turmoil, a tiny bit of me feels empowered. I'm confronting the unfair treatment by my parents for the first time in my life. I'm declaring my value and refuse to be written off. It's both terrible and freeing at once. Though I think I'm in the right here, the family drama is draining me, something I hadn't experienced since college. I have started having anxiety attacks once more. To assist in handling all this stress, I'm thinking about returning to therapy. Am I the one who should have refused to comply with my parents' expectations and accepted my inheritance? Should I have simply handed Amy the money to maintain peace? Although I'm bored of being the family scapegoat, I also fear losing my family totally. Any guidance or viewpoint would be much valued. Update. Since my first post 6 months ago, a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and guidance. It truly kept me strong during trying circumstances. Let me start with the legal aspect of things. Many of you advised me, and I saw my own attorney. He verified that I had every right to inherit, and that what my dad attempted was, in fact, illegal. He helped me record everything and was ready to act legally should I need it. Fortunately, things did not transpire as such. Along with my dad's siblings, my grandma and her attorney worked out matters without involving the court. I got my whole fortune, and the will was carried out precisely as intended. Because of his will manipulation attempts, my dad was removed as an executive. This was a somewhat demanding process spanning several weeks. My parents threatened litigation, and there were tense meetings and furious phone calls, but ultimately, the law was unambiguous, and they had to back off. Still ongoing, though, the family fallout has been noteworthy. At first, my parents doubled down on their viewpoint. They charged me with being avaricious and neglectful of my sister. They also sought to mobilize other family members against me, disseminating allegations that I had somehow coerced Grandpa into giving me money. Luckily, most of the family saw through their trickery. About 1 month following the will's acceptance, there was one really unpleasant occurrence at a family gathering when my parents showed up unannounced. My aunt was hosting and hadn't asked them to come. They started a scene, starting to shout about how I had taken from Amy and corrupted Grandma against her. My dad began saying I had ruined all these wonderful memories. My mother flung an old photo album squarely at my feet. It was awkward and terrible. It took several relatives to cool things down and persuade my parents to leave. Bless her heart, my grandmother turned out to be my most powerful supporter throughout all of this. She related tales of how my grandfather had always been proud of my achievements and how he especially wanted to make sure all his grandchildren had equal chances. She even said Grandpa had maintained a scrapbook of my accomplishments, newspaper clippings of academic honors, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from that university play my parents had been late for. This insight was sad as well as wonderful. Grandma also volunteered to straighten the records with the wider family. She organized a family gathering excluding my parents, laying out the entire history of my parents' partiality, including events I had long forgotten or never even heard about. Having someone at last recognize the unfairness I had gone through for years was vindicating, but it also reopened old scars about my sister, Amy. She at last found her voice in all this. She came to me personally and apologized for not sticking up for me earlier. After some soul-searching and several long talks with our grandmother, she said she thought our parents' preference was improper, but she had been too terrified to confront it. We discussed our childhood and how it influenced both of us at great length and emotional intensity. Amy admitted that being the favorite child wasn't as wonderful as it seemed. She never learned how to stand on her 2 feet and felt great pressure to live up to her parents' expectations. She told tales of times she yearned to accomplish things on her own, but our parents would swoop in and handle everything for her, thereby depriving her of the opportunity to develop and learn from her mistakes. For our relationship, this talk marked a sea change. We began to mend the sibling bond our parents' partiality had broken. Just the two of us have been routinely meeting for coffee to discuss and encourage one another through this family crisis. Declaring that she was going to pay for college with her inheritance astonished everyone. She claimed seeing me stand up for myself motivated her to start managing her own life. Once she decided what she wanted to study, she registered at a nearby community college, intending to transfer to a 4-year university. Our parents let out startled gasps. They knew. I believed that their babying had not done Amy any favors. My parents' response to all this has been diverse and changing. They first attacked both of us angrily. They tried to guilt Amy into quitting college to help the family since they said I turned her against them. They changed strategy when that proved ineffective. After several protracted talks with my grandmother and seeing Amy's great transformation, my mother began to recognize how damaging their actions had been. She has made some hesitant moves toward reconciliation, even beginning therapy to address her problems. She got in touch to apologize, owning that she had been unfair and requesting a chance to right things. It's a slow process, and while I'm gently hopeful, I'm also keeping strong limits. Sadly, my dad has been less likely to make any mistakes. Still furious, he feels as though he is the victim of all this. He has been chilly toward Amy since she chose to go to college and hardly speaks to me. He has tried a few times to control us, threatening to sell our childhood house should we fail to come to our senses, or forgiving us should we realize we were wrong. Although we are both standing strong, it hurts to see him distance both of his children like this. The dynamics among the extended family have changed dramatically. I now live closer to my dad's siblings, who have been quite helpful, and my grandmother. Having heard from my aunts and uncles about handling my dad's challenging conduct over the years has lessened my loneliness in this fight. Deeper bonds with some of my cousins who stood by me have also developed. Starting a monthly cousin meal allows us to all catch up, free from the drama of the older generations. For myself, I have been making sensible use of my inheritance. Having paid off my college loans, I now feel an amazing degree of financial freedom. Working with a financial advisor, I have assembled a varied investment portfolio. I have also set aside some funds to maybe launch my own company some years forward. Opening a community center with reasonably priced mental health treatments and financial literacy seminars is something I'm investigating. However, for me, buying therapy for myself and volunteering to do the same for Amy has been the most significant application of the money. Both of us are learning to set reasonable limits with our parents and are working on healing from our childhood events. Though it's a long road, I already feel as though I'm developing in knowledge and ability to overcome emotional neglect and long-term partiality. This whole process has brought some surprising improvements into my life. I now know a great deal about establishing limits and defending myself. Though I know I did the right thing, it hasn't been easy, and there are still difficult days. I feel good about myself for resisting guilt and pressure. Among the most unexpected results has been a change in my work path. Dealing with all this family conflict and undergoing therapy has helped me to see my own passion for supporting people who are dealing with similar family dysfunction. Currently, I'm considering returning to school to specialize in adult children of emotionally immature parents and work as a family therapist. I have also been helping youngsters from challenging family homes at a nearby youth facility. Being able to offer the kind of encouragement and support I wish I had had as a youngster is immensely satisfying. I suggest creating a scholarship fund for children from the same circumstances using some of my inheritance. My contact with Amy has kept getting better. Once a month, we have a siblings day when we do something entertaining, just the two of us. Our hiking and picnic last month was the most laid-back and connected we had felt since we were small children. Without our parents' influence, we are gently reconstructing our connection on our own terms. Regarding my parents, things remain tricky. Our relationship has been trying to be rebuilt by my mom. She has been routinely attending therapy and has even begun to see some of the damage her favoritism brought about. We have had a few one-on-one lunches where we have had some honest, though challenging, talks regarding our past and forward direction. Though it's not flawless, improvement is evident. My dad still objects to change. Though he still says he's done nothing illegal and that Amy and I should be appreciative, he refuses to be in the same room with me. Hence, he missed several family functions. Though it hurts, I am trying to let go of my need to compel him to see things differently or control his reactions. For both Amy and me, Grandma now serves as a rock. She has been sharing additional tales about our grandfather and his pride in us. For advocating for ourselves, she always supports justice and understanding. Thus, she has been a fantastic mediator in family problems. The whole process has imparted a lot of lessons about the actual meaning of family. I've come to see that occasionally, the family you select might be more encouraging than the one you were raised in. Along with developing a close-knit circle of friends who have been quite helpful along this journey, I have grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting limits and practicing self-care have also become more crucial to me. I'm growing better at saying no to circumstances that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel bad about giving my personal well-being a top priority. I was so preoccupied with trying to achieve my parents' favor that I had always put off investigating new interests and hobbies. To those in similar circumstances, I would wish to advise: don't let someone make you feel bad about getting what is rightly yours, even if it generates controversy. It's reasonable to defend yourself. Though family dynamics might be complex, you are deserving of fair treatment. Remember, you never have to be too late to begin developing the life you are due. See a therapist if necessary, surround yourself with encouraging people, and don't hesitate to establish limits. Who you are personally defines your values, not how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you once more for your suggestions and encouragement. It meant more than you would have known during a really trying period. Although the road has not been simple, I'm excited about the future and confident in self-assurance I have not experienced in years. Where this new chapter of my life will lead excites me, and I am resolved to stop the pattern of favoritism and build better relationships in my own future family. Thank you for joining me on this powerful journey of standing up against favoritism, betrayal, and the fight for fairness. This story is a reminder that no matter how deep the scars of our past may run, we all have the strength to reclaim our worth and make our own path. From years of emotional neglect to finally asserting my value, my experience proves that it's never too late to demand respect, set boundaries, and heal. Family dynamics can be complicated, but we must always prioritize our mental health, self-worth, and future. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, entertain, and remind us that respect is earned, not given. Let us know in the comments how you would handle such a situation, and we'll see you in the next one.